Borger City Council. Chair recognizes the presence of a quorum. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we come before the throne, Lord, and we ask Jesus bless the wisdom and insight of this council, Father. Lord, that you pour out richly your blessings upon this city, its officials, its first responders, Father. And Lord, we ask right now, Father, that we do everything in order and according to your perfect will. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
This time we'll take questions and comments from citizens. I see none. We will have a public hearing on a couple other items here in a minute. Next item is the city manager's monthly report. Mr. Spradley.
So just, this is our first report of the new fiscal year, and so you'll see a few changes. First of all is the performance report that's in your packet. So we kind of have definitely revamped that with some more graphs so that we can kind of see a graphical representation of how we're going throughout the year. So I think that people will find that a little more useful. We're getting ready to have a whole dedicated web page on the website to some of these numbers and everything so that you can look at that. You'll also notice that our target, we've used the last 2 years' average to create the monthly targets based on when things actually happen. And then there are some things that are future because, you know, we don't chip seal in the middle of the winter and some things like that. But if anybody has any questions on that, I've got a few printed copies if you want a printed copy for the first time to kind of get used to it. You'll also see in that packet is our comprehensive plan update, our annual report on our comprehensive plan project. And I want to point this out because, you know, as the council knows and the community probably should know through some of the social media and media coverage, the City of Borger was recognized as the Texas chapter of the American Planning Association's Community of the Year. And so Mayor Felker, Councilman Loftus, and Councilwoman Perez and I were down in Corpus to receive that award 2 weeks?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
Yep.
Well,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So of course I'm very excited about that award because it kind of speaks to the commitment and the dedication of a lot of different people from the community to the council, the city staff to kind of get that. And part of that was based on a comprehensive plan. And as you go through this report and you see the progress that we've made over the last 5 years towards that strategic planning and execution of this plan, I think it just reinforces probably one of the reasons we were selected for that award. And some of those things, like yesterday's Huber Park ribbon cutting was identified in some of those plans, and we've got a lot of things going on. So that's kind of in there if everybody wants to kind of get an update and see where we're at. We still definitely do commit to our comprehensive planning and our strategic implementation of all those things. So this will only be a yearly thing, so you know your packet won't be super huge all the time, but there is kind of a nice little summary in the back with just the tables if you want to see, you know, what we've completed, what we're working on, and what we still have to do. So now that we're a month in, it's a little early to be kind of looking at finances as things kind of go, but general fund overall, revenue right now is above our 5-year average, and expenditures are below our 5-year average, so that's always kind of a good way to start out. Overall, you know, expenditures are over revenue in the month of October, but if you look at that trend, they pretty much always are as we start getting our first property tax payments in November. So generally in November, that corrects as we start getting property tax in. Then it kind of goes back lopsided until we get our big industrial contract payments in June. But right now, everything's looking on a pretty good trend. With revenue in the general fund, the sales tax right now is above our budgeted amount and above the 5-year average amount, so that's still on a positive trend. October sales tax collection was up 21.9% over last year. November was up 10.9%. So for the fiscal year to date, we're up 16.5% already in 2 months of sales tax collection, not just one. And then the calendar year to date, we're just 1.3% up, so you can see how that kind of levels out over a year. Right now, the biggest gains in the month of October were rental services and convenience stores. I am sure that's probably tied to the turnaround going on at the plant. So we'll see how that sales tax holds up through the holiday season. But right now we're off to a pretty good start. Water and sewer fund revenues at our 5-year average. So we're still making what we're used to now. So that's always a good, and that is actually above our budgeted amount. So we're still performing well on the revenue side. Expenditures are below our average amount and below our budget, so we're starting off the year pretty good there. Of course, we do have some construction projects that'll hit once the winter weather gets a little bit behind us, so we're working on that. But right now, in the water sewer fund, revenue is over expenditures, which is always a good way to start out. And keep in mind that in the water sewer fund, that's pretty much how it always works until we get to July, when we have to make all of our debt payments on the $30 million worth of the water sewer debt. So, but it's looking pretty good right now. Hotel occupancy, you'll notice there we're above our average and above the budget. I'm sure that's being fueled a little bit as well by the turnaround, and we'll see how that goes into the coming months. But we've had pretty good track history with that. We're getting a pretty nice little bit of cushion in there for both the venue tax and the hotel fund for our dome payments. So we have been, actually the last 2 years now, we've been able to pay more out of hotel occupancy tax than what was originally planned. So we have been offsetting some of the INS funding for that, so that's always good. A couple of project updates. 10th Street, if you've been by there, I know we've had some headaches with that over the last couple of months, but we're starting to be back behind most of those. The Milligans started actually working on the base and regrading a lot of that area. If you've been by there, you can see the extent of work that we're doing, especially at Coble Street. You know, we're taking that down a pretty good amount. That'll help improve the drainage that we've had in through there. So you're kind of seeing the extent of the work start now. We do still have to get some of the old gas pipe out of the way before we can patch and reopen both lanes of traffic on the south side. We do still have the one lane of traffic opened, and Milligan will be putting in some flowable fill in those areas before we patch it, so that flowable fill will even out, smoothen, and harden, so that when we do get over to that side of the road to do the big project, the base won't fail beneath and we won't have problems.
Is that like concrete or?
It's kind of like concrete, but it's more of a slurry. It's a lot more thinner so that it levels out, and then it doesn't quite get as hard, because we don't need base doesn't need to be concrete. It just kind of needs to be firm.
Okay, just curious.
And so that project is working. We've got the AT&T should be out next week to finally move their last little line, and we've got the final work coordinating with the gas company on getting that. But we are back. Like I said, if you go out there, it is at least nice, because we are seeing visible improvement now that we've moved on to the street side of it and out of the utilities, which were all underground. And like we said, and I know all of y'all remember, we did get to have the ribbon cutting for our Heber Park play equipment yesterday. So we've had lots of good feedback from that, and I think that'll be well used probably Thursday, with it being so nice on Thanksgiving. After all those kids eat some turkey, maybe they can go burn some calories on the new play equipment. We do have some benches and a few little things still ordered to kind of clean up and improve that area, but we did want to get that open as soon as we can, with a little bit of nice weather forecast still coming. Buena Vista Park, the splash pad, the concrete's been completely poured now, and so they just need to finish a little bit of the plumbing and get that covered. They're in the process of winterizing it for the winter. They'll come back in the spring and do the final finish work and then get it open for the nice spring weather. So that'll be a nice addition to Buena Vista Park in the coming year and next year. We did get our survey completed at the youth center, so they are starting to design work on the swimming pool project for the youth center. So we are still on track for that. We should have some preliminary plans to kind of show y'all towards the first of the year, just as we work through the survey and all of those things. The Main Street Pocket Park, I put some kind of renderings in your weekly update email, so we're just about finalizing that. It's going to end up with a nice pergola in the front half and some open space in the back half. It'll have I think we're talking about doing away with some of the post lights and do ground accent lighting, which will be more useful when you have events and kind of out of the way. We've got the power plan so that if the farmer's market or something does set up in there, we've got extra power to set up boost space throughout that parking or throughout that pocket park. We've got the power plan so we can hang some rope lights on the underside of the pergola on the front half, which will be a good congregating space, and it has some raised planters and benches and seats. So I think that's going to be a nice addition there. Right now, the plan is scheduled to be finalized on December 21st. We're looking at starting the bid, publishing the bids on January 15th, opening the bids on February 5th, awarding the contract on February 19th, and then we should have substantial completion by the 18th of June and final completion close out on the 7th of July. So I'm sure that Nicole is happy out there to know that she might have the new park available for this year's Freedom on Main.
Why do we call it pocket park?
That's a term that Park Hill and the Parks Plan uses as a small park.
Okay,
So that's just kind of, I guess, what I've latched onto. Pass-through park, pocket park, plaza, pavilion.
okay.
Because normally they called it a
So
pavilion.
engineers like to call it pocket park.
The landscape architects like to call it a pocket park.
Okay,
So I think there's some acreage on when they call things parks and when they call things pocket parks, but
okay.
I've tried to just pick one and stick to it so we don't get confused.
All right.
For the longest time, I called it a pass-through park, but I confused apparently I confused the architects when I called it a pass-through park, so that'll be nice. We are still progressing on the design for the Third Street Stormwater Project. That'll go out to bid also with the Rock Creek Sewer Crossing, the above-ground sewer crossing. So I expect those to probably come before the council, probably sometime in the February, March timeline. So we are still progressing with those projects as well. As we start going through the departments, of course, Michelle's been super busy in the last month with open enrollment as we've been getting everybody ready for the new health insurance and benefits package. So that's actually all gone pretty smooth, and for the most part, we had less problems than we have in years past, especially considering that we did make quite a few changes. So she's been, we're down to just having 3 people we have to complete, so that was definitely a good thing. So I know most of the feedback's been very positive with the new benefits package. We've been able to give people and pick up some of that stuff. So overall, that's been mostly a really big success and definitely good for the employees. In the fire department, this year we have been, I don't know if recognized is necessarily the right word, but it is. We are actually number 2 in the nation for our wildland reduction efforts, as published by the National Fire Chiefs Association. So they keep that listing every year on the amount of work and effort that we put in. So out of every community in the nation, we're number 2. So I think we've known that we've got a pretty good mitigation in our commitment to those wildfire risk reductions for a long time, but now there again, we're up there as number 2. With the help of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout project, they were able to get all of the hydrants painted inside the city limits. So we've got all those hydrants painted. They're working on getting to the ones that we respond to out in the unincorporated areas too. But if for some reason you've got one missed, fire department asks you, you can just call them and they'll get it on the schedule in case there was 1 or 2 that might have got overlooked. They, along with the police department, participated in the Halloween Carnival at Johnson Park, the FPC Career Fair, and the Paul Belton Career Fair. Of course, the Halloween Carnival was definitely well attended, so they definitely got some experience there. All the crews have now also completed their live fire training for the year, so we're good and past that. They've selected 2 fire recruits, which will start their training in the coming months. And then we actually have 4 of our EMS staff that have signed up and will be starting the fire academy as we work to get the EMS personnel cross-trained in the fire department. Also, Chief Galloway was selected to be our regional rep for the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, so it's also always good to have local representation there. They taught 15 Girl Scouts first aid and stood by at the Frank Phillips College bonfire to make sure that all of that was safe, and then we actually had 6 employees attend the Palador Wildfire Academy, and of course Archie and Bob Watson helped instruct that.
Okay.
So getting lots of exposure there. We also are kind of excited that we had an opportunity, so we brought back the 1955 fire engine number 5. Is back in the city's possession as kind of a parade project car. So the service center's been working a little bit on that, and I do believe it will be ready to lead the parade come next Friday. So I know that it's traditional as the fire guys are and all of that. I know we've got some happy employees to do that, and I'm kind of excited for that too. So you'll get a good glimpse of how much has changed since 1955.
Is that when Santa Claus is going to be riding, or?
I don't know yet.
Surprise, surprise.
So I don't know if it'll be in the front or the back, and we'll see. We'll see if Santa Claus is more nostalgic or more modern. In the utilities department, they've been busy. We've had a couple of well line blowouts in the last month. Nothing, necessarily to pinpoint. One was on the well line north of the Canadian River, the Stinnett well line. Keep in mind that well line's been in service since about 1964. So it's just got just a little wear in a few places, but that at least we were able to fix. And with the plant on turnaround, we didn't have any issues meeting our water needs. We were able to compensate from everywhere else. Then we also had another little bit of a failure at Sterling's and Stevens back in that area. If you're back there, you kind of saw that mess, but we got that taken care of pretty quickly as well. Public Works, of course, they've been busy keeping up with 10th Street and trying to stay on top of that. I know Jason's done a good job. I'm sure he's probably wanted to pull out more of his hair than I've wanted to pull out of mine, but we're making it through it. We do have 2 openings in the street department right now that we'll fill after the first year. We do have a equipment auction going on right now. That'll end November 28th. So we've been able to get some new vehicles in. We've got some of those replacements out on auction. I almost passed out last week as we got a half-ton truck in that was ordered in this fiscal year.
Wow.
It was less than 3 months and we got it. And everything else has been like 18 months. I almost,
Hit the floor.
the police chief over there has been joking about his unicorn Tahoes, something that you hear exists but you've never seen. And so I kind of think that might be a better description for this truck, getting it that soon. I didn't think that was something that would ever happen. But we do have that. Of course, the Parks Department's been busy putting up all the Christmas lights around town. They'll be working on the big Christmas tree on Main Street next week. You'll notice we got some replacement poinsettias this year, so they're not the fuzzy garland ones. They're kind of the metal like the other ones we've had. Those hold up a lot better. They don't fade like the garland does. But the newer ones with LED technology, they use just 110, not the 220 volts. So we've got working on a little bit of electrical upgrades on some of the poles to support those. So don't be surprised if they're just a little bit longer and being lit, but we're working through those. We'll eventually have to do that with all of them, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, the Parks Department's also been busy assisting with Huber Park and cleaning up around that. They'll be getting ready for Hometown Christmas next week. And I know that they're going to be a great asset to Nicole as our skating rink and the dome start getting transformed for the Christmas season. In animal control, we got their new flooring project completed as part of this year's budget work. The estate inspector was actually here and commented on all the improvements that they've made to the facility and appreciate their working through that. But also upgraded some electrical work. They've gotten their 10 new cages and 6 new traps. The new traps have wireless monitoring, so they'll know when something gets in them. And so as we try to get out there and address people's concerns with traps, we are trying to keep up with that. I've also put in 6 new air sterilizers into service into the shelter as we try to reduce infection and other issues there and make it a little better. So, you've probably seen or heard, there's a pretty big distemper outbreak kind of going around the county, and we've had some issues with that in the shelter. So Daryl, our animal control supervisor, as part of the fee schedule, you notice that we added a fee to add more mandatory testing every intake for distemper now. And so they did actually catch their first case of that this last week. So they were able to keep that animal out of the shelter before it spread its disease to all of the other shelter animals. So we're seeing some progress in that. So it's always good to be proactive and then see it kind of work. The police department has put their new body cameras into service, and they're working on replacing the in-car cameras in the police car. So that's nice to keep up with that. They have narrowed it down to 2 new recruits, assuming that those 2 new recruits pass the rest of their testing. We'll be sending 2 to the police academy come May. So right now they're 4 short. So that'll be 2 of those, and there might be a few others certified come in. But we're in a good position now and the chief and I have talked that we don't want to get overly concerned about a shortage and hire people that we definitely might not be the best fit. We want good fit culturally and worth ethic as we go forward. We did get 1 new certified officer hired with 16 years of experience. So we are making some progress in their staffing. Got 2 new Tahoes put in service. We've got 2 more that are in that are getting outfitted, and 1 more that's still on order. That would complete the last of our previous years. We still have 2 marked and 2 marked on order for this fiscal year that probably won't be here till who knows. But there is actually only 3 on order now. At one point, the police department had 12 vehicles on order. So we have at least caught up on that and have reduced that 12 down to 3. So we're starting to make progress on there. And I know that should be beneficial on our maintenance budgets going forward this year. Our maintenance budgets definitely started taking a hit last year as our replacements were delayed. So I just kind of want to point out, I know sometimes we get comments about seeing a lot of new vehicles and things like that, but prior to the COVID delays, we have been able to reduce almost $300,000 in our maintenance budgets a year by rotating equipment. So it is not cheaper to keep older equipment. They also completed the alert training. This was a good training with both officers, firemen, and dispatchers, so it was an all-inclusive alert training, so we're definitely trying to keep up with that, make sure that we've got all the training we need to respond to anything that might happen in our schools. The patrol division did complete their annual patrol rifle training. As part of the budget, there was a firearms simulator that was budgeted. That has been in, and they've started getting ready for that. I know the chief is excited to show that off to you, so at some point in the coming months, we might give an opportunity to get y'all in there and see how good y'all can be at shooting or not shooting.
Is this handguns or rifles?
Okay.
I think it'll,
Both, sir.
I'll take rifles, handguns, I'm not very good at it.
but it definitely is a good tool to help train and get officers into decision-making situations so that they respond better on their feet. It is pretty easy, actually. They can make their own film and create their own scenario, so they can actually go in and film like our schools or our buildings and get the officers used to running scenarios in things that they might actually come across. So definitely still, as that P in our Boomtown pride is professional, and so that a lot of that ties to training. We're definitely glad the council supported that, the piece of equipment, and seeing the police department put that into good use. In officer management, in emergency management, they've been working to coordinate with church leaders to help, with donation management programs in the future, shelters, and finding out how and we can better respond to that. Jason was actually able to renegotiate our Everbridge contract to give us unlimited credits. And what I mean by that is like every time you send out alerts, it takes a credit. And so used to we had a set number of credits, which as you send out more alerts, it whittles those down. Now, this hasn't been a big problem, but getting unlimited credits, we can start using it more for any type of alert or public engagement or public event notification that we want, in addition to all of the emergencies. I would encourage anybody that if you haven't signed up for Everbridge, that is borgertx.gov/alerts. We'll get you there, or you can come by City Hall and talk to Linda or whoever's in the window, and we can definitely get you signed up for that. We had our first pre-construction unit for the mobile command unit that was authorized, so we've been working down, made a few adjustments to that. I am very impressed with the thoroughness of that company, and it's going to be very nice. The way that its communications are going to interact and things like that, we're going to be able to use it for a whole lot and close a lot of gaps. So I think as we get that in another 18 to 24 months, y'all will be impressed, and we'll be ready to share that off for you. Jason's also been working and coordinating with Oldham County to come get those sirens removed that the council authorized last meeting. And we've also started a big project, at least in the coordination stages, between Carson County, Gray County, and TxDOT, and Hutchinson County in our responses for a regional mitigation program. So over the last several years, we've been mapping all the wildfires that happen. And as they spread across the 4-6s going towards 152 and off into Roberts County, there's actually about a 3-mile stretch that every fire crosses. And so the plan is to go in and coordinate with the 4-6, which has given us permission, is to put in a burn line in that area where 80% of those fires cross, because what we're seeing is almost all of them in that area, they start somewhere along 207, and then of course the prevailing winds pushes them northeast. By the time they get to 152 from 207, they're so big and so wide, they almost always jump the highway, and it's so hard to stop. So by looking at those maps and where they go, there's that strip. If we can stop it there and give us some time to get into the 4-6 and get them stopped before they get over to the highway, we think we can see some good success with that. So we're kind of glad to see how some of our GIS and historical mapping's working and see how that might play out.
And that'll be by burning,
Yeah.
pre-burn? Okay.
Yeah, so we'll put in a big burn strip, and then hopefully, because as we get closer, we'll have some map, because my IT update is Dustin, who's our new GI, moved him into that GIS position. He's actually working on some mitigation maps so that we can have them on the website and show what's planning, what's what's going to be burning, what we're currently burning. They actually can be deployed on the mobile phone with some of ArcGIS's mobile apps, so that the fire crews that are actually out there can see where they're at on the map progression at quarter mile and 1 mile increments. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all that mapping technology expands and increases our abilities there. But that multi-county 4-6 project, I think, is going to be really, really cool, because I mean, all the big fires, that's what they have. We are working with TxDOT too to maybe try to get some better controlled burns down the medians or down some of those crossing areas.
Amen.
There's a big trade-off between erosion control and fire control. They don't want you to cut anything because that grass is erosion controlled, and I get that. But at the same time, if they can't mow it frequently enough, that's a big contributor to the wildfire spread. So we looks like we got everybody on board. So I think we're going to get to see some good progress on that. Which, if you live in the eastern part of the county or up in Roberts County, that'll be a big, big benefit to them. Dispatch is getting ready to have a regional dispatch workshop. This is the first workshop in the region for dispatchers. It's kind of specifically for dispatchers, so dispatch has been working through that. So we're excited to see that and become maybe a little bit of a regional hub for dispatch, training and networking opportunities. Had 3 dispatchers that have completed their TERT training. That's the dispatchers, the telecommunicator emergency response training, which comes out TERT, which I'll keep my mouth shut on what I think that sounds like. Sydney Jordan has also completed the new supervisor courses, and we've had quite a few go through additional training, including 911 customer service and advanced dispatch courses. So we're still going through a bunch of training there. They actually reached 90% ProQA accuracy during the last month, which our target was 86%. So they're doing a really great job and trying to improve and work through all of those. I will ask that, as people call 911, don't get upset with questions. It's not delaying your response. There's more than one working there, but getting information is important for our responders to know what they need and how to better serve what your needs are. So if you just bear with the dispatchers and answer those questions, we can give some better service there. Plan development, we do have our new code enforcement officer. Well, he's new to them, but transferred over from the street department. So Johnny Laddick started last month, so he's been catching up, and we're starting to see some progress there in code enforcement now as the growing season has stopped and we start to get into some of that. So we're excited to see how that works with that expanded position. If you recall, we reallocated the equipment operator from building standards as a second code enforcement operator. Our right-of-way crew is now helping to work on the equipment as the equipment operators for the demolition.
How's that going? I mean,
Well, so far, so good. We're going to see. We're still waiting for our 1-ton truck
okay.
that will use the gooseneck trailer to haul the debris off. Our plan going forward with that is for them to focus more on the demolitions during the winter, the fall and winter months, and then they can transition to more of the grass and weeds and debris during the summer months when they've got the seasonal help. So I think overall we'll be able to get more structures down doing it like that. They've actually, if you've been over on 11th.
Oh yeah, this morning.
So the 30-day appeal period has expired for that, and so they did get their seizure warrant issued for that and have started the demolition on that structure at 603 East 11th that was in front of the council a little over a month ago. So Austin's doing really good work with that. Yeah. And in case you were wondering, we've got some video of that, but there was some debate on how structurally sound it was. He took the front of that building off, and with one little punch, the rest of the building completely collapsed all in one. So it definitely wasn't as... But we did issue a permit for a remodel at the plaza. They're going to add a little more storage, and I think they are working towards an eventual interior remodel coming up soon. And so that kind of takes care of planning and development. In finance, I want to kind of, the next time you see an investment report, you're going to see some things different. We've had an opportunity to, Terry and I have been monitoring CD rates and other things, you know, depending on what interest will go. Right now, TexPool is still providing the highest return. But if you recall, TexPool, the minute an interest rate hike or decrease goes down, it goes down too. So none of those rates are locked. So the Bank of Oklahoma, which is one of the banks that has some of our debt that we've issued, they do the Cedars program, which is a program that A&B used to do, but we did buy a 3-year CD locked in at 5.05%. So we're keeping an eye on those long-term CD opportunities. I think interest rates are not going to be at 5% in 3 years. And so we're trying to kind of balance when we want to lock in some longer-term rates, knowing that rates will probably go down to give us better return in the long term. So right now, TexPool's, I think, at the 5.4 or something. So we're giving up just a little bit on TexPool, but like I said, for 3 years, that CD will earn 5%. So you might see us start moving some of that around to maximize our return going into the longer.
These will turn over 3 years.
3 years, right. So right now, the best return, most of the local CDs at 2 years are below 4%. And the longer CDs generally have been having lower returns because the banks are betting the interest rate's going to go down, so they don't want to give up that. This is the first time and I don't think Terry's seen a 3-year CD at over 5% lately. So I don't know how fast it's going to go down, but I think it'll be below 5% by the end of next year. So I think locking it in for 3 years, and we'll keep an eye on that as those long-term rates go. But I know that you're not used to seeing a bunch of CDs listed or other things on that investment report, so I kind of wanted to let you know that we're taking a better look at that. Because as TexPool got low before, last year we made, I don't know if y'all looked at that last investment report pretty good, but we made almost $1.2 million in interest last year. 3 years ago, we made $22,000. And so I'm not, we haven't really been managing CDs probably as well as we could have to maximize some of that in the past, but we're going to probably start doing some of that more so we can try to hold on to some of that interest income we're getting a little bit longer. I don't expect us to make, because we did make interest on a lot of money that's in reserve that is earmarked for projects that is going to get spent down, so I don't anticipate that all to happen. But just the general fund made over $200,000 in revenue last year, and that's based on our reserve policy. So, you know, I would like to keep that revenue for as long as we can. That takes off pressure on our sales tax and our property tax base.
How does the CDs and stuff, how does that tie in with the reserve policies? Is it outside the reserve policy?
It's part of the reserve policy. What I'm looking at doing is probably, as Terry and I have discussed this, I don't think we'll invest anything more than our 28% reserve, because that money, you know, we don't want to ever spend anyway. So having most of that locked up in a longer term CD is not a problem. So right now, our required reserve is about $7 million. We've got a little over $21 million in all accounts. So if we lock up $7 million, we still got some fluidity going forward. And I don't think I would lock up all 7. We've talked about somewhere between 5 and 6. And you can get out of them.
Okay. I was just curious about the reserve itself, but I don't want.
Yeah, and that's you know, and that's what I want to make sure is that since we've got such a strong reserve policy, you know, I want to make sure that we're using that money to our benefit as much as we can too. So we definitely want to increase our return as much as we can. The Cedars program, it's one bank, but they distribute amongst multiple banks, so it's all FDIC insured, so it meets all the Public Funds Investment Act requirements, and so, you know, it's not at risk. But I would sure like to it's only been like 2 years ago when our average rate of return was like 0.1%. So 1/10 of 1%, and this last quarter it was over 5%. And so,
We like you to have money to work with.
yeah, I would like to keep, you know, as high of a return as we can for as long as we can. I don't know how long that will work, but, you know, we're going to try our best on that. Public engagement, of course, Deidre, I'm sure some of y'all see some of her things more than some of the other departments, but that's why it's important to know what the rest of them are doing. But We are getting ready to start that, or we have already started the window art project for this holiday season, so she's got some window art submissions in. So the city's gonna buy the paint, the chamber sponsoring the award, gift cards, and then we've got 11 businesses that are interested in letting those artists paint their windows with that Christmas art. Gonna try to make that seasonal, so that each season we can change kind of those downtown business windows with some different seasonal art to kind of spice up downtown. We're also getting ready for the holiday sip and shop tour. That's December 2nd, so we're going to have 2 shuttles, including, you know, the van that we bought. They're going to be running routes with 8 stops to 11 local businesses. So she's got that set up pretty well. The only requirement is that you have to at least go into each store. Don't have to buy and don't have to stay, but you got to go in. So we're hoping that at least gets some exposure to our local retail establishments. One of those stops is on 10th Street, so that's kind of our way of maybe trying to help as much as we can with the street interruptions that we're doing. So we've had pretty good entertainment with that. We're excited, or pretty good response from that, so we're excited to see that go. The Johnson Park Youth Center and the Salvation Army are partnering on their holiday kickoff campaign on November 30th at 6:30 at the Youth Center. So they're going to have games and a whole bunch of other things going there as the Salvation Army gets ready to try to gear up for their bell ringers, and anybody that is interested in ringing the bell should think about signing up if they'd like. We're also getting ready for December on Ice. So the ice rink is supposed to be here December 7th, and will be open to the public for the first time on December 11th. So we'll be putting more out on that. Nicole would like to thank Councilman Perez and Mayor Felker for giving up some of their council money to support what is supposed to be the Winter Wonderland decorations of the dome.
Absolutely.
So it should be a nice event. I think people are going to really like that. They're also working on completing our 2024 events listing, so we're trying to get everything kind of planned out and figured out for a whole year in advance, so we can kind of put those out. That'll help us as we get sponsorships and just kind of knowing what's going on, so that things don't conflict with some of our bigger events. So they're working on that. That should be good. I gave some feedback on the new resident guide or just residence guide. So, you know, we're making a book with a bunch of information, you know, for new residents or current residents on how to do things, what phone numbers are, things about our community. So we're excited to get that done. Thanks to Nicole's personality and or persuasiveness, the day tripper was here not too long ago. She met them at the Small Cities Conference, and so he did come up and had an onions burger. And did you make him eat pie?
Oh, yeah, I had like 2 slices.
Well, I think I ran into some of the citizens said they had talked to him. And I said, oh, okay.
So definitely getting some more exposure for our community. And then, of course, Deidre's new well, it's not necessarily new, but ongoing project is she's working to link up the Youth Advisory Council, Code Enforcement, and Keep Texas Beautiful program as we kind of try to get those back on track to work through some of those. So that's the city's happenings in the last month. It's been a busy one, lots going on. But I'll entertain any other questions you might have.
You've had your hands full.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
I now know why my hair is thinning more too, I think.
Hey, come on now.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any discussions? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda's items from 6 through 8.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Item 9, conduct a public hearing, then consider and take appropriate action to approve on final reading ordinance O-011-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger, Texas by rezoning 517B South Bryan, sections 40 foot of lots 8 and 9, block 29, ISOM edition, from the suburban urban zoning district to the corridor mixed use zoning district. And we need to conduct a public hearing. So move
Yeah, we
right
talked
into-
about this last week, so I'll answer any questions that you might have, but this is just the final zoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended this back in February, so we're just kind of catching up on this. The council previously amended the future land use map to support these changes. This is over in the area by the school, across from the parks. The corridor mixed use does open up a few more use options other than just residential, so I think it's a good fit. But I entertain any other questions, then we just need to have the public hearing and allow for public comment if there is any.
All right, then I will open a public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak to this issue? I see none, so I'll close the hearing. Discussion?
No.
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve on final reading ordinance 0-011-23 rezoning 517 517B South Bryan to commercial mixed use zoning district.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Item 10, conduct a public hearing, then consider and take appropriate action to approve on final reading ordinance O-012-23, amending the future land use map by changing block 56 and 57 of the original town site from CMU, that is corridor mixed use, and GR general residential to LI light industrial. Mr. Byrd.
Yes, council. So Mr. Garcia is here with us today, and this is pertaining to his property. He originally came to us wanting to do a storage building there, and the zoning did not allow that. In discussions with that, we thought it would be a good idea to change the future land use map, and that's where we're at today. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
And this will permit that now.
Yeah.
This will permit what he's looking for.
The next item would.
Oh, the next item, that's right, it's a two-phase, okay,
Yeah.
right, okay. Right. I'll open up a public hearing. Anybody wish to speak to this ordinance? I see none, I close the hearing. I'll entertain a motion unless there's other discussion.
I move to approve on final reading ordinance O-012-23, amending the future land use map by changing block 56 and 57 of the original town site from corridor mixed use to general residential to light industrial.
I'll second.
Motion is made and second, all in favor? Motion carries. Item, that was, so we're on 10 or 11?
11.
11.
We're on 11. Conduct a public hearing and then consider and take appropriate action to approve on final reading ordinance -013-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger, Texas by rezoning 311 Brain Street lots 9 through 14, block 56, original town site, from the corridor mixed use zoning district to the light industrial use zoning district. Mr. Byrd.
Yes, on this item here, we are specifically talking about Mr. Garcia's property. I believe it's lots 9 through 14 of the original town site, and he is asking to rezone that to light industrial in accordance with the item before.
Okay.
And I would like just to add on both of these items, and I mentioned in the memo that, you know, we appreciate Mr. Garcia working with us from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, trying to do things the right way. I know that the government, you know, I say a lot, you know, you got to work with us, you got to give us that it's the government, so nothing happens fast. And I know that this has slowed it down a little bit, but we do appreciate, you know, someone actually trying to understand the process and working with us from the beginning. It makes things a lot easier.
Okay. I'll open a public hearing. Anybody wish to speak? Okay, I see none. I close the public hearing. Other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve on final reading ordinance O-013-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger, Texas by rezoning 311 Brain Street from the corridor mixed-use zoning district to the light industrial use zoning district.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 12, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank y'all.